Welcome back to Manacasters. I'm going to be doing a deck tech on a new deck that I just did. It's we just played it last night and it actually got to do the thing, which was nice. So it's Lathril, Blade of the Elves. It's Elf Tribal. It's two in black and a green, so it's Golgari. It has Menace. Whenever this card does damage to a player, it creates that many 1/1 elf creature tokens, and I tap this and tap 10 untapped elves I control, and each opponent loses 10 life, and I gain 10 life. So I'm basically going to be trying to make as many fucking elf tokens as I can, and just keep dealing damage to everyone. Couple of cards in here for basically just fucking with everyone. Is Tyvar. Two different Planeswalkers and the normal card. The Planeswalker first one, Tyvar Kell, is elves you control tap for a black. I can put a 1/1 counter on one target elf, untap it, and it gains Death Touch. I can also do a 0, create a token, or I get Emblem whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn, and I draw 2 cards. The other Tyvar may activate abilities of creatures you control as though they had haste. +1 is untap one target creature, and -2 is mill 3 cards, then may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. And then normal Tyvar, whenever one or more elves you control attack, they gain Death Touch until end of turn, and then each creature you control has, whenever a mana ability of this creature resolves, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana that creature produced. It triggers only once per turn.
Gross.
That's very important for your mana dorks. There's several of them that tap for the amount of elves you control, so it's very important. There's not a lot of like reanimation or any type of that. The only one really in here is Elvish Regrower, and it's whenever this creature enters, return target. Whenever it enters, return target card from your graveyard to your hand.
Return target.
Oof. And then here are some ramp, or trying to get like more cards into your hand. Elvish Harbinger, when it comes into play, you may search your library for an elf card, reveal it, shuffle your library, put a card on top, and it also taps for a mana of any color. Then Harvest Season, search your library for X basic land cards, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control. Put those cards on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle.
Oh.
Very good way to get lands out if you need them. Especially with Lathril. If you've already done the ability, then you get to get like 11 cards. Bounty of Skemfar, reveal top 6 cards of your library. You may put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and an elf card from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. And then Spring Bloom Druid, whenever it enters, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, search your library for 2 basic lands, put them on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle.
Haro on a dude.
Yep. And it's an elf, so it's another elf tribal card. These are, let's see, another one of those where it's cards come out from it, or you get to look at the top of your library to play creature cards.
Just more like utility.
Yeah, utility. You get to look at the top card of your library at any time, basically, and if it's a creature, you can cast it for most of them. So Realm Walker, it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, it's a changeling. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, cast creature spells of the chosen type from the library. Eladamri, it is same thing, look at top card of your library. You can cast creature spells. You can also pay green and tap it. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control, reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If you reveal a creature card, put it onto the battlefield. So you can basically do that for free. Put a creature out. And then Growing Rights of Itlamok lets you do top 4 cards of your library, reveal a creature card among them, put it in your hand, rest on the bottom, and then end step, if you have 4 or more creatures, it becomes a land, and it either taps for a green or add a green for each creature you control.
Oh, Growing Right?
Yep.
Oh, it's Baby Cradle, yeah.
Alright. And then these are token creators. So Elvish Promenade, it's tribal sorcery. You put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token on the battlefield for each elf you control for 4. With how many elves you make from other shit, it's It's a lot. Elvish War Master, whenever one or more elves enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 elf. Only triggers once, and then you can pay 7, and elves you control get +2/+2 and death touch till end of turn. Elf Sworn Giant, one of the few not elf creatures in the deck. It has reach, and whenever a land you control enters, create a 1/1 green elf token. So that with some of the cards where you bring lands out, nice.
Gross.
Windswift Slice, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't. Create a number of 1/1 green elf tokens, equal to the excess damage dealt this way.
Huh.
So, again, if you have like 15 or 20 creatures, you deal damage to like a 1/1 and then get 14 more. Wolverine Riders, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a green elf token. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness. So you get life gain and you get more tokens. Imperious Perfect, other elves you control get +1/+1, and then I can pay 1 into it and create an elf token from it. Lease Alana Huntmaster, whenever you cast an elf spell, you may put a 1/1 green elf creature token on the battlefield. So just you get a free elf for casting an elf.
Yeah.
And then Elven Ambush, create a 1/1 green elf for each elf you control. Another basically doubler of the elves you control. So there's a lot of ramp to get creatures out. And then these are kind of more utility, but extra stuff that helps you get further along. Patchwork Banner. So it's just a mana rock. Creatures of chosen type get +1/+1. So you get put an elf out, you get another mana rock. 3-Tree City, one of the few non-basic lands that I have in here. It enters, you choose its creature type. You can either add a colorless or pay 2, tap, choose a color, add mana equal to the number of creatures you control of the chosen type. So elf tribal, all the elf tokens, you're gonna have no problem with mana if you either get this or one of the other ones where it's dependent on how many creatures you control. Marwyn the Nurturer, whenever an elf enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it, add green equal to its power. Same thing. Wirewood Channeler, add X mana of any one color where X is the number of elves on the battlefield. Same thing. Elvish Archdruid, other creatures you control get +1/+1, add a green for each elf you control. Wood Elves, when it comes into play, search your library for a forest card, put it into play, and then shuffle. Leyline of Abundance, if it's in your open hand, you put it on the battlefield. Whenever you tap a creature for a mana, add an additional green. You can also pay 8 into it and put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, if you want. Elvish Guidance, whenever enchanted land, you put it on a land. Whenever it's tapped, its controller adds green to his or her mana pool for each elf in play. I have a lot of ways to get a shit ton of mana.
Yeah.
And then Elvish Mystic, Fiendhorn Elves, Llanowar Elves, Canopy Tactician, other elves you control get +1/+1, and then you can tap it for 3 green. Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, tokens you control have tap, add a green. And then Priest of Titania, tap, add green for each elf on the battlefield. So I have like 5 or 6 different ways to just get a shit ton of mana for how many elves I control.
Consistent.
Yep. And then these ones are more just utility stuff that's in there. Shaman of the Pack, when it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control. So it's a 1-time trigger, but it's another elf. It's a 3/2. Ruthless Winnower, at the end of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-elf creature. Just fuck with everyone else's creatures. Why not? Emerald Medallion makes my green spells cheaper. Wardens of the Cycle, at the beginning of my end step, if a creature died this turn, I can either gain 2 life, draw a card, or draw a card and lose a life, so you have a chance to get more draw. Pact of the Serpent, choose a creature type, target player draws X cards, loses X life, where X is the number of creatures I control. So if I really wanted to, I could make someone just kill themselves by drawing, or if I need to, I can make myself draw. Lotharian Blade. Whenever a quick creature attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature depending player controls. So I get to fight something, basically. Reclamation Sage. When it enters, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Herald's Horn. When choose a creature type, creature spells are one less of the specific type. At the beginning of my upkeep, I look at the top card of my library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, I can put it in my hand if I reveal it. If not, then I don't do anything with it. Dwynen, Gilt-Leaf Dane, Reach. Other elves I control get +1/+1. When this card attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking elf you control. Another life gain. Skemfar Shadow Sage. When it enters, each opponent loses X life, where X, I can choose one, sorry. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control with a type in common, or I can gain X life, where number of creatures are in the same type. Whisper Silk Cloak. A quick creature is unblockable and can't be the target of spells or abilities, so unblockable and it gets basically Shroud. Immaculate Magistrate. I can tap, put a 1/1 counter on target creature for each elf I control. So just make something big if I want. Elder Fang Venom. Attacking elves you control have Death Touch, and whenever an elf I control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and I gain a life. Well-Wisher. You gain 1 life for each elf on the battlefield if you tap it. Elvish Champion. All elves get +1/+1 and have Forest Walk. So if the opponent has a forest, they can't block any of my creatures or any of my elves. And then Deathrite Shaman is basically just a little fuck everyone's graveyards. I can tap it with no mana, exile a land card from graveyard, add 1 mana of any color to my pool, or I can tap it for black and it's exile instant or sorcery. Each opponent loses 2 life, or I can tap with a green, exile target creature, I gain 2 life. So those are some of the more like just normal utility stuff in there. And then let's see, these are all most of the stuff that deals with tapping my creatures. This one, so Null Mage Shepherd, tap for untap creatures you control, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So a repeatable Reclamation Sage. Vitalize, it's a green, untap all creatures I control, which is very important with how this deck works for the commander. Quest for Renewal. Whenever a creature you control becomes tapped, you may put a quest counter on quest. As long as there are 4 or more quest counters on it, untap all creatures you control during each other untap step. Yep. Seedborn Muse. Untap all permanents during each other player's untap step, so same thing. Arbor Elf, it taps, I can untap a forest. Throne of the God Pharaoh, at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control, which, depending on where I'm at in the game, could be a lot. Dionysus, Elvish Archdruid. Elves you control have whenever this creature becomes tapped during your turn, untap it, put a 1/1 counter on it. This ability triggers only once per turn. That's like the second most important card in the deck for the commander, because it just lets you do it for free.
Yeah.
It just lets you tap, then they untap, and then you can tap them again for free for once per turn. And then you can untap them again from one of the other things. And then Copperhorn Scout, whenever it attacks, untap each other creature you control. So I could do that for combat, do that, they all untap again, and then do them again.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, what's this one? So these are draw cards. Skull Clamp. With the sheer amount of tokens you're making, you can put 1 on a token and draw 2 cards when it dies. Or, depending on if you can kill it. Because some of them are going to be bigger than a 1/1 at that point. Life Crafter's Bestiary. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you can pay a green, draw a card. Vanquisher's Banner. Whenever you cast a spell of chosen type, draw a card. Choose Elves, obviously. Leaf Crown Visionary. Other elves you control get +1/+1. Whenever you cast an elf spell, you pay a green, draw a card. Miara, Thorn of the Glade. Whenever it or another elf you control dies, you may pay 1 and a life and draw a card. Sylvan Anthem. Green creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a green creature enters the battlefield, you may scry, or you scry 1. And then Beast Whisperer. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. So that's the entirety of or almost the entirety of the Elf Tribal deck. I'm running 30 lands.
Proud of you.
Huh?
Said proud of you.
3 non-basic, the rest are basic. Rogue's Passage, 3 Tree City, and one of the pathways that you flip green or black.
No command tower?
And command tower, so 4.
Okay.
But yeah, that is the new Elf Tribal deck that I made. We did record a video on it. Hopefully it goes up.
It's been going for about 6 hours now, and last I checked it was at 37%.
So we'll see if that ever gets uploaded.
You may get a deck tech beforehand.
Yeah, you'll get to see what's in the deck before you get to see the deck work.
Yeah, all our games that are going 30 minutes plus, they're kind of being a bitch, so we're hoping for these to be a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And somebody requested one.
So we're trying to
recorded. But, we're going to see if y'all like these.
Yeah. Have a good one.